traditional path of going to retail, it can take a very long time. When we're talking about grocery stores and other type of larger retailers, it's a once-a-year category review. So it's very difficult for them to afford to wait that amount of time. And then there's a higher cost of entry. So what I'm seeing with my, my new brands is they need to make money right away, just like you do when you go into retail. And that's very hard to do while they're waiting for brick and mortar to give them the entry. And also, you know, again, it's more like a gatekeeper, but when you go to Amazon, you control your destiny. It's extremely automated. You not only do everything yourself to set up your products and list your products, but you can control the marketing. And, you know, obviously one of the huge benefits of it is it's an unlimited shelf. So if you're a small brand, you might only get 1 or 2 items into a retail store. But if you have 18 as a new brand, you can get them all on Amazon. It's also instant national distribution, so that's a very important aspect for new brands. And it's a proven model for them. One of my first clients 3 years ago is now doing over $7 million on Amazon as a small brand.
Can you say who that is?
It's a brand called Nut Pods. It's a non-dairy creamer that is, you know, it's a consumable. It's sold on Amazon, and they changed their entire business plan when they saw the success that they had. So one of the, what I feel is one of the ongoing misconceptions is that it's all about price. Because I can tell you, I advise my clients on a very specific pricing structure so they can be profitable. It's not about price as much as it's about selection, convenience, speed of delivery, and that amazing ability to serve the customer. I mean, those of you who shop at Amazon, you know it's all about customer service. It's not just about giving the customer what they want, but also looking at the trends and getting ahead of the trends for what the customer wants. But one of the things that was already mentioned is we're seeing a lot of these businesses go to brick and mortar because they too realize that they can't have the level of success that they want without having a storefront where people can touch and see and feel the products. And you know, it speaks to really what the facts are now, which is only less than 10% of retail is online. So that's 90% that's still out there for the picking. It's just a matter of finding that differentiation you need, or that unique offering to the consumer so that it makes you relevant instead of trying to do the same thing over and over. And so that's typically just the typical thing I see online. And it's not just Amazon, it's other e-tailers that offer these experiences and opportunities for the customer.
And with that note, and you all have more to say, and I'm sure questions will get to it. I would love to turn to you all and hear what you're wondering about. So who's got a question? And does somebody have a mic to rove around and let you be heard? Okay, there's one right there, Palo.
Hi, you all, my name is Cal. You all have all touched on convenience from many different perspectives. And I just read that Uber or Lyft has set up an arrangement with Taco Bell where if you're in the middle of a Lyft ride and you want to stop by Taco Bell, there's not going to add to your bill, which again is convenience and consumer experience. So I'd like to know what, if any, effect you've seen on your businesses related to the mobility services where people don't have to worry about parking, they can be dropped off. Are you seeing that have any effect on your business?
Okay, are you speechless?
Well, maybe I can help define that question a little bit. And it's probably for Betsy mostly. When we think about retailers, we think about restaurants, one of the words that's often used in a lot of the articles that you read is the word omni-channel, meaning You're not only brick and mortar, you're also online, and you're also exploring any other avenue to reach your audience. Can anybody talk to that and maybe dovetail both those questions into one?
Thank you, Russ.
Yeah, I would agree, because the path of purchase for consumers obviously is not as linear as it was. They don't just come into a store or go to Amazon. So much of the research is done online before they come into a store, or, as we're talking about, these storefronts are coming from online retailers. The one thing that I think is just, it's too soon to know something like that, if that kind of a trend is going to impact restaurants. One of the things, of course, that I think we've all seen is these online food delivery services that are like Blue Apron, where you can make this fantastic meal with all the ingredients delivered to you. And I'm continuing to see that as more of a threat to some of the brick and mortar businesses and restaurants than something like you're referring to with Taco Bell. Because I think something like that is too soon to know, but there is a huge impact from these DoorDash services and the online food delivery services.
Yeah, and I would agree with Betsy that the mobile kind of drive-by and pickup is still kind of embryonic. Blue Apron, but also, frankly, the ready-to-eat meals that you get at the supermarket. If you go into Whole Foods or Safeway, whatever, you can now buy a meal that's been, I won't say gourmet, but it's been cooked and ready, and you can choose healthy or not healthy. And so that's taken a piece of the restaurant business, absolutely, because it's about convenience again.
And Trader Joe's salads.
Yes, I could add one thing about
Yeah.
downtown. I do think that the ride-sharing services are bringing people to downtown. We frequently have meetings in our office right on Alma Street. Well, I'd say half the time that people arrive in an Uber, they may be coming from Stanford Research Park, Stanford University, Menlo Park, South Palo Alto, and they usually make it, they decide I'm going to stay for lunch, so we'll have the meeting at 11 and then they go to lunch, and they would never come in a taxi, and they don't want to park. So people actually, it's funny, but for us in the middle of the day to go run to a meeting in South Palo Alto is kind of a pain, but we have people saying, no, we're coming to your office. So, that's just my own little story, my little corner in the universe, but I find that to be encouraging.
There actually are marketing partnerships which are combining the ride-sharing services with retail and restaurants. So we've participated in a couple where I think it was through Visa maybe, but it was Uber and the counter. So if you hitch a ride with Uber, you get $5 off.
You getting any pushback on that Uber relationship?
Do you want the return on it?
No, any pushback on the Uber? I'm just making a
because of
comment
Uber,
on the
because of
culture situation.
the politics.
Well, we didn't have to go into that. We're here to talk about
we have
retail.
relationships with Lyft also. So.
Excellent. What other questions? Chuck,
So,
if you'd like to introduce yourself, you can.
Lori has a store in Burlingame where it's paid parking on the street, and Palo Alto is free parking on the street. And Palo Alto's free parking it's sort of a battle between customers and employees in this Congo line that moves every 2 hours, which is unproductive for your employee. So my question is, if we had paid parking downtown, and you can buy as many hours as you wanted, but would that be too much of a deterrent to your customer and to your employee?
Well, at one time, we owned one parking pass for Palo Alto. There's an area in Palo Alto where employees can park. But the parking pass, I think, is about $300 now. $460. Is that $700 a year?
$700.
Yeah. So then if we got to we would get one, and I kind of felt the store manager could have it. But then there was arguments over, no, I didn't drive it, and you didn't drive it. It was like a fiasco. So we stopped offering that. Some other locations we have parking available, but Burlingame went through the whole streetscape. We lost from vertical angular park, what is it, straight, this kind of parking, to all parallel parking. So, we increased the sidewalks so all the restaurants could be out there. And there's more parking lots though in downtown Burlingame area for people to park and, put money in the meters. And there's some meters that are 8-hour meters. So if they're,
What do you think about this parallel parking versus angular parking?
The question is parallel versus angular parking.
For your
well, they
customers?
turned the street into having 2 lanes on each side to 1 lane. So there's less parking and it's kind of a problem. But like my store in downtown San Mateo, I'm on 4th Avenue there's a parking lot in back, which as a tenant, we validate the parking. So it might only cost the customer 50 cents to park instead of the full rate. And then we're billed every month from part of our CAM charges for the extra parking. So I have a combination everywhere.
I think
What piece of your business do people ride by bike?
The
For
question
us,
was, how many people arrive by bike?
to work,
And that's-
employees? Not,
We-
no.
Or just to come down?
Customers and employees.
Customers, yeah.
we just surveyed our employee base and 5% or less ride by bike. So there's a dichotomy in Palo Alto specifically between our guests and our employees, which is I think paid parking for our guests is palatable, but for our employees, they're in a different socioeconomic class, and it's not.
So they need a place to go.
We need a dedicated place for employees to park. These are the people that are making it all work, right? And they can't afford the parking. They can't afford the parking tickets when they don't move their car, and they're being squeezed out.
So I don't think we're going to solve that problem in the next few minutes, but I think that is a clearly identified issue that needs to be addressed that does not have a solution on the table. Would you all agree with that at this point? Okay. What's another question? Yes.
My name is Beth.
And here comes the
This may
microphone.
be- This may be a simplistic suggestion, but it seems to me that if the cost of renting space in downtown Palo Alto were reduced, that could be a win-win for everybody. That more people would be able, more retailers would be able to afford to have businesses there. More businesses would be able to stay. There would be more variety of options to attract people to downtown, and I would appreciate your responding to that.
Well, I can tell you for this building, that approach hasn't worked. We pretty much said, make an offer, whatever you want to pay. Leasing for retail is like growing your garden. You have your tomatoes over there, the cabbage over there. Some need sun, some need shade. There's an overwhelming rumor that every landlord's just super aggressive, but when you're in commercial real estate, the enemy is vacancy. So when you're sitting in a building empty for a year, nobody wins. It's just not that simple. On University Avenue, that's an A-plus location. The landlords have typically been pretty aggressive, but on side streets or in a bad economy, the Natural Mattress Store, we brought that tenant in. They paid $2 on University Avenue because that first block is a very weak block. And after a year of marketing, at really unpriced, basically saying, really what we're looking for retailers is who has a business plan, who can survive. We don't want to have to re-tenant a year later. I think that, like I said, my door's always open. The rumors about cost are totally overblown. We also I don't want to take too much time. We had a famous story that, I don't know if anyone remembers Jose's Caribbean on El Camino.
Yeah.
So our client bought that property. His rent was 50 cents. And as soon as the client bought the property, we sat with him and he said, I'm getting killed. I can't stay in business. We said, but your rent's only 50 cents. He said, it's not rent, it's everything else. It's just too hard. So the client ultimately let him stay for 2 more years at 50 cents, but he wasn't succeeding. So I think it's an oversimplification to think it's only the rent. There are a lot of costs. And most landlords who have portfolios, people like Chop Keenan, like us, we consider ourselves patriots of downtown. We care. We would much rather have someone who's thriving and having a beautiful store than get the highest rent. And I think that's really true. If somebody's a one-off, they only own one building, they may have a different opinion. but it's an ecosystem that I've been involved with for 20 years. And like I said, you can't plant all tomatoes, even in the shade. You know, you have to change your plan and be realistic about each side street location or Lytton Avenue or whatever you're looking at.
Well,
Okay,
John, and
who's got another question here? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, two interrelated questions. One is with mixed-use residential development in downtowns, how much is that spurring?
Can you hold the mic towards your mouth? Thank you.
Yeah, with mixed-use residential downtown development, whether in Palo Alto or other places, how much is that stimulating entrepreneurial retail? And the second question is, and I think, again, not necessarily Palo Alto, but I think it's a national trend that there's been mixed use because of failing malls. Again, how much is that stimulating retail, entrepreneurial retail?
And we're going to have super quick answers because it's almost time to wrap up.
I do think that having a critical mass of people in downtown is what makes the retail survive. The fact that we have a very high daytime population. I mean, if you look at downtown Menlo Park, you can roll a bowling ball down Santa Cruz Avenue on Tuesday afternoon. It's not like that in downtown Palo Alto, so there's a real synergy between the office and retail. And then on the weekend, the residents have a great place to come too. But family dynamics don't have, you know, one of the parents taking the kids out to lunch in downtown in the middle of the week. It's just people are busy, they have ballet, they have soccer. I mean, it's just, when you look around downtown in the middle of the week, it's all downtown workers.
And you've been watching kind of Palo Alto TV right here, watching people go by, the people coming to work, triple the daytime, the population triples, I believe, during the day, something like that. That's right.
With Westfield, with us being a large shopping center owner, what we've been doing too throughout our projects is really looking outside, doing pure retail. And so what we're starting to bring in is more medical as well as office into the projects, again, to create more of a dwell time, as I brought up earlier, but people that, you know, if you bring in a relative or a family member into the doctor's office for a simple visit that may take 45 minutes or so, what it does is it gives you that opportunity to have something else to do rather than sitting in the waiting office. So that's something that we're building up throughout the portfolio. We've had some success with it down in LA or Southern California with UCLA Medical. And again, it's something that we're expanding and looking to do up here in Northern California as well.
So looks like, well, we got, okay, a lot of questions here, and we're having a wrap up at 9:30. So I just want to say that if people need to leave at 9:30, we invite you to do that. And if those of you want to stick around for a few more minutes, we can take a few more questions. So anyway, Barbara.
So we're talking about two different...
Microphone, wait, hold on.
There are two different dynamics here. Two different... of a retail shopping center who has total control over the combination of stores and businesses and what that mix is, versus a downtown that is, you know, that has multiple landowners, multiple interests. And so the synergy of not only the commercial, the amount of workers in the downtown or commercial visitors during the day. So there's guests, there's workers, there's the residential in the downtown, and whether it's California Avenue or you know, or University Avenue, I'm astounded. I want to ask the question: how does the complexity of managing a downtown, how do you, as a property owner trying to attract a client, a tenant, the ordinances that everybody needs to comply with, the parking dynamic, and the residential community around that, who do you talk with to be, you know, who do you consult with to help you with that dynamic and solving it in a successful way that's, you know, that's good for everybody?
Thanks for asking that. Yeah, it's been harder in more recent years. There's been some kind of mistrust that I'm not sure. I mean, I've always considered myself very honest, straight shooter. So, like I said, most of the things that people are debating whether it's on a policy level or on Palo Alto Online, no one ever asked me what actually happened. So one of the things that's an interesting story is in 2000, so the way the retail ordinance used to work in downtown was that if there was over 5% vacancy for more than 6 months, you could put office right on University Avenue. So Chop Keenan, a few other leaders, and myself included, we went to the city and said, we're really worried about the one-offs, the family trusts who bought the building 50 years ago and don't pay any attention. Because in 2009, we had about 18% vacancy in the downtown retail district, which was unprecedented. That had never happened. We said, please change the ordinance, make it so you can't put office on University Avenue. Because we realized that having a couple insurance agencies and a mortgage broker could kill that shopping center forever. So that kind of policy level discussion we love to have. We love to work with the city council and the staff to kind of strategize on what's going to work. And I mean, sometimes I tell that story, people say, wait a second, you told the city council to not let you put office? We're like, yeah. So, you know, I do think dialogue, that's part of what inspired this event, is to get everybody talking, to understand like what's the common interest. And I think like the common interest is much more clearly defined than people think, you know, that people really aren't at odds.
I think there's a question in the front row, and then in the second row, here comes Russ.
I think my question also relates to offices and the conversion of offices and what kind of impact, if any, you feel that has had on retail.
I mean, I think that the ground floor retail zone, the CDC PGF, has had.
There's some acronyms for you. Can you translate?
Commercial downtown. I don't know. P is pedestrian oriented. And GF is ground floor retail. That's been protected since the ordinance was passed, I think originally in the 80s. So any of the conversions occurred more on the fringe. And I mean, if we had time, I could walk you through every single one. A number of them had to do with people retiring. You know, the stories that have been told about people getting kicked out, in general, aren't true. I mentioned the laundromat. Zabibo was one where they retired and made a fortune selling their building. It was a 17,000 foot restaurant. I mean, Peter, would you like a 17,000 square foot restaurant in downtown on 2 stories?
Not really.
Right? So each of these is a story that nobody ever asks, what's the story? So again, I'm happy to share, but this is not the land. I mean, again, the cost to convert from a restaurant to an office it takes years and years to make that back. It's not this glamorous like, woohoo, I got a tech company tomorrow. People are running to the bank for a loan. You know, I mean, it's not necessarily a pleasant experience, and that's really the misunderstanding here, I think.
Okay, and I think Adrienne in the second row.
I'm going to represent sort of the customer and completely change the topic. I wanted to ask about pedestrian spaces and this, this competition between the experiential sort of environment versus expediency, getting what you want, what you need, you're out, you have an errand to run. It's either convenient or you want what you want when you want it. So you're sitting at your computer, you do it online. Or you're going out for dinner and you're shopping. Coming back from Europe, the experience in a pedestrian area opens a lot of opportunity for the small shop owners, and at least from a consumer perspective, it's also very pleasurable, and I find myself spending lots more money than I ever planned on spending in that sort of environment. So do you see these two things as sort of being mutually exclusive, that you either have to go for the experience or the Expedia? And why are there not more pedestrian areas in Palo Alto specifically and in the Bay Area in general? We have such beautiful weather, and Stanford Shopping Mall is, for all intents and purposes, a pedestrian area. So that's my question.
Are you speaking more just specifically downtown areas, or more lifestyle centers like Stanford? Because I would disagree with you about the Bay Area. I think it has quite a few downtown areas, pedestrian areas. I grew up in Southern California, in Orange County specifically, and we had one. It was, Orange, and no one ever went there. So moving up here is actually great, because now I can experience a lot. Every city on the peninsula pretty much has its own downtown, which is great, and it gives those opportunities to have smaller shops, you know, in the walkability of the traffic.
But I think that's not what you're talking about.
That's not a
Okay.
pedestrian area. That's you've still got a main street, you've still got traffic, you've got parking issues. I'm talking about a destination where people park on a peripheral and they
More
spend
like a lifestyle center or an open air mall.
An
something like
actual
that.
street where there are no cars. I think that's what she means.
I think the land is unavailable here. It's very, very, very expensive, and so landowners have to capitalize on that, you know, by getting as much for their rent as they can. So I think it limits it, absolutely.
So I think what she's saying is that in Europe, people have made streets where they have decided there will be no cars. There are stores, there are people, and they are shopping, but they've just decided it's going to be a car-free street. There are those kinds of streets all over the world, including in the US. And she's just asking, I think, why they aren't so much here. I think you're just saying there are some reasons that people want cars. But I didn't hear really an answer to that question. Lori, did you want
I was
to?
just going to say, I'm in the Prune Yard in Campbell, and the Prune Yard is doing a huge renovation, and part of it is to have a central area in the center where it's pedestrian, where the kids can play, or there's going to be a new Pete's Coffee, where it's like the center hub of it, where you can dwell, as the new term is, and hang out. And I think that's something that there's more centers that want to turn towards that because they need to be more lifestyle and have people hang out and be families and, you know, be around. So that's going to be, we're in the midst of construction, but that's coming in the very near future.
So we've actually had some experiments here in Palo Alto. One was planned. Recently it was the downtown, some of the streets were closed. Sandra Slater here helped organize that in the city of Palo Alto. So people got to experience what it was like where there weren't cars on a temporary basis. And the other time, I remember, how many were here when the Walgreens fire happened? Do you remember what that felt like? And people were walking in the streets and, you know, people were gathering, and it's a different kind of feeling. So I guess my point, Erin, was just that there's a choice to be made, and so far Palo Alto hasn't made that choice, but it is an opportunity, and to your point, I think that other cities and parts of cities around the world have made that choice, and to great retail benefit and restaurant benefit in your experience. So I'm going to wrap this up. It's a little past 9:30 now. I just want to thank our panelists so much for being here. You have really shared so much this morning, and I know there's a lot more to share, and if you are prepared to linger for a few minutes, I'm sure people have more questions. There's an amazing group assembled here, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and a lot of customers. So I hope that you will linger if you can, and I also just want to thank again Russ and Palo Alto Downtown, John and Brad and Premier Properties, and of course Aiden and Kelly, the organizers.
And I'd like to thank Lisa for moderating the panel, and I'd like to thank all of you for being here. It's obviously a great subject, and it has commanded quite the crowd. I think if we can draw any conclusions, it's all about creativity. The retailers have to be more creative and involved, and so does the city. So I think we all have to come together as a village and identify the ways that we can handle this new paradigm that we're living in. So once again, you know, folks will hang around for more questions, but thank you all very, very much, and we look forward to seeing you and working with you in the future. Thank you.